Hi, Richard.
Hi, Brent. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Very
Great.
excited about today's topic because we have our Technical Tuesday session. And today's
Yeah.
topic is Operations Deep Dive. And this is so extend that this is a part one, and which is called From Incidents to Intelligence.
hmm
Um, right? So, a bit of recap over the last few weeks, we've looked on GRC, or governance risk and compliance, from a technology perspective and discuss the importance of native integration between governance systems and daily operations. But today, we begin the operation side of the equation,
Yeah.
starting with the incident management, because too often incidents are treated as paperwork or compliance reports, but in reality, incidents data is one of the most valuable feeds into a company's risk and governance frameworks. So we'll explore why and how organization can transform incident reporting from a reactive process into a driver of proactive strategy, culture, and resilience. So, given that small introduction, let's dig into why is an incident management such a critical operation process.
Well, to begin with, I'd say because incidents are where strategy meets reality,
Right,
right? Um, Incidents basically reveal weaknesses in controls, in processes, or in behaviors,
right,
right? Some uncontrollable things also can reveal themselves as potential future risks as
yeah,
well. If handled correctly, incidents provide invaluable data for governance, risk, and compliance and continuous improvement.
right,
If incident management is ignored or minimized, incidents become blind spots that can escalate into major failures in the future. So having that feedback loop between governance, risks especially, and compliance and incident management, it's mission critical as far as I'm concerned.
all right. So, and how does it connect directly the governance risk or to the governance risk compliance frameworks? So,
Well, um, I can't speak to other systems. I can speak to ours, where we
right,
have
right,
full GRC management natively integrated with operational execution
right,
features, right? And in our system, incident data is essentially the frontline evidence of risk.
yeah,
Okay. A near miss on the shop floor or a compliance breach or a customer complaint. Each one maps directly to a risk category in the governance model, right?
yeah,
Without that incident data, risk management is just theory.
yeah,
Yeah. With it, you have ground truth. You have the shop floor reality, right? Every incident should either confirm that an existing risk is real,
right,
highlighting gaps in your controls, right?
yeah,
Or it should reveal new risks that you hadn't anticipated.
right. And thinking about risk and the incident data and risk management, there are so many variables and so many type of organization. You have manufacturing, you have fleet management, you have service provider like maintenance of buildings or shipyards or it's a platter of things. So what types of incidents should organizing, sorry, what type of risk an organization should be capturing to
Well, it certainly goes beyond accidents, which is what a lot of people think about when they think about regular incident management.
right,
But it goes well beyond accidents, right? Those would be things like safety incidents, right?
right,
Accidents and near misses are typically the two categories within safety incidents,
right,
right? Recording near misses can be just as important as recording actual accidents, and I hope our audience never have any actual accidents and only experience near misses. But there's
right,
also things like conduct incidents, HR incidents, like occurrences of harassment or conflict or
right,
misconduct. There's also compliance and ethical breaches, fraud, policy violations, etc. Those are valid incidents to manage. And then you've got asset or process faults, right?
Right.
Equipment failures, service breakdowns, process issues, right? Every one of those types of incidents carries implications for
Yeah.
governance, compliance, or risk. And there's actual, if you're in the manufacturing game, you've got things like FAMICA or FMEA. You've got process, PMEA, et cetera, et cetera. So failure modes, effects, and criticality analysis is the most detailed one
Yeah.
for engineering in manufacturing processes, that kind of stuff. Or, the lesser version, which is failure mode, effects, and analysis.
Right.
And that's identifying potential faults in a process or in the engineering of a product or something along those lines. Those can also be captured in our incident management system. I just want to make a quick note on that
Yeah.
because it's important to understand that our incident management, um, you know, can capture all of those kinds of incidents,
Right.
right? And you can also have filtered visibility of the various incidents. You might not want an HR, harassment incident that gets reported to be available to everybody else who can, report safety incidents,
Right.
that kind of
Right.
stuff. So it's fully compliant in our environment, but basically incidents will capture risk realization,
Yeah.
and that's key, right? So you've identified a risk, say, and you're like, well, there's a likelihood and there's an impact and there's a detection difficulty. That's especially important for things like failure modes,
Yeah.
right? Is detection difficulty. It's an important third factor.
Yeah.
Is how difficult will it be to detect realization of the
Yeah.
risk, right? But when a realization occurs, any incident is either a realization of a risk and needs to be reported back so that you can further mitigate or assess your controls, right? Or it will identify that a risk should be in your system and proactively managed. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
any kind of occurrence, safety incidents, HR, and conduct incidents,
Yeah.
compliance and ethical breaches, assets or process faults.
Yeah.
That's the broad categories.
Interesting because many companies just associate risk with the operation, but
Mm,
operation also is part of the HR and the safety and the compliance. And finally, that I mentioned HR because actually I used to work in a company, a very large corporation, where they didn't want to let people go, even if they underperformed or were troublemakers in brackets. Let's put it that way.
mm,
And because they had a risk policy about branding, so they would tolerate months and months and months of retraining, support, etc., before going into a process of letting somebody go, because they didn't want to have an impression that this company people were fired. In other words.
mm.
But actually, I see that what you say in HR risk, I can associate with that kind of thing. So I say sometimes is the risk are in the most strange places, like a branding. I would say strange is like who will suspect that a bad branding will be part of the risk of the company operation, but it
Oh,
is okay.
yes.
So uh, why do many companies struggle then to underreporting of incidents, if you may?
Um, in that context, I'd have to say there's basically two main reasons, right?
Right,
One would be culture.
right,
Yeah. Fear of blame or punishment discourages people from speaking up.
yeah,
That can be one. If they're not made confident that they can report things anonymously, then people won't speak up. That's your typical whistleblower concept,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, Other people would be, they'd be concerned about an incident that they're involved in case they're going to have the blame placed on them,
yeah,
that kind of stuff. So making sure that there's a closed loop, that you want the incident reporting in order to feed back to your governance, risk, and compliance, that there's a
yeah.
purpose behind it other than blame and shame, right?
Mm,
So building the right culture in your business is important, or you will end up with unreported incidents, right?
Right.
The other reason is systems, right?
Right.
So overly complex or slow reporting processes basically discourage frontline participation in incident management.
Right.
To solve that, or a misunderstanding of the purpose through the system, right? No transparency on why certain things need to be reported. Yeah.
Yeah.
To solve that, leaders have to build both a learning culture and use simple digital tools that make reporting safe and easy.
Right. Right. And so, in terms of making reporting safe and easy, so how can technology then improve incident capture and accuracy? Because actually, it's so vast that you mentioned, like from the operational, from machine and vehicles to assets to people, HR. So, how technology can improve that incident capture and accuracy of the reporting, or
Well, one key thing that has evolved is, mobile first tools,
right,
right? Photo
immediately,
capture, automated workflows,
right,
and quick forms that can be easily filled out, with that amount of real estate,
yeah,
scrolling and just entering data, that kind of stuff. That can dramatically improve reporting rates.
right,
Yeah. When reporting is fast and critically transparent,
yeah,
frontline workers will engage. This has been proven. Yeah.
right,
Um, if you've got AI capabilities, avoid the hype, but if AI can also help classify, tag, and analyze
yeah,
incident data, reducing admin burden and
yeah,
improving accuracy. So that's a good that I would say is a good reason to have some AI minus the hype
right,
involved
right,
in a software platform like Trinity is in dealing with incident reporting. A good AI can tell a lot from a couple of photos, um, that kind of thing. But you really want to make it easy entry,
yeah,
right? So anything that falls under that category, being able to use your phone, being able to capture it with photos rather than long documented
right,
descriptions, right? Having an automated workflow of review and feedback and analysis and root cause
yeah,
analysis, that kind of stuff. All of that is really, really important. There isn't anything simple about it in terms of the mechanisms, but you want the interface, the
yeah,
human elements to be as simple as possible.
right. Yeah, you mentioned workflow. So once the data is captured, you mentioned pictures, forms, or um, forms, sorry, on mobile or tablets. So once it's captured, how should the incident data flow into the risk management? So because we
Oh,
started with governance, risk, and compliance. So there you are. So now we capture the data, we have the form, we have the information, how it flows now into risk management.
well, I would say that this is one lane of the operational bridge
Right,
between GRC and operations,
right,
right?
right.
So you get an incident recorded. So there's a frontline report of what actually happened,
Yeah,
right? It gets classified. The system links that incident to an existing risk, whether it's safety or compliance or HR or asset.
yeah,
That would be somebody in your organization who is aware of the risk matrix and is aware of, and is reading the report. You don't depend on the employee necessarily to
right,
classify the incident and link it to a risk, right? But somewhere in there, somebody who's aware of the risk
yeah,
matrix that currently exists will link it to a safety risk or a compliance risk or an
yeah,
HR risk or an asset risk, et cetera, right? Then there's a validation and analysis step. So
mm,
risk managers see whether the current controls on that risk
yeah,
are effective
right,
based on the incident recorded, right? Or does a gap exist? And then there
yeah,
needs to be an action loop. And that's, insights flow back as updated controls, updated training, or governance or
right,
policies of some sort. So there needs to be typically some kind of a follow through, that kind of
yeah,
stuff. And all of that is indivisible from governance, risk management, and compliance.
mm,
Thinking of this, think of it this way. Incidents are the dots, right? And risk management is the map.
right.
Okay.
All
So you've
right,
got a
right,
map with a few dots on it. Incidents are the dots. If you don't capture the dots, your
Yeah.
risk map is empty. It's just a
There's nowhere to
landmass,
go.
right? Right. If you capture the dots but don't connect them, your
Right.
risk map is misleading.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But if you connect the incidents to the risks, you start to see patterns,
Yeah.
hotspots, emerging threats, and opportunities to
Yeah.
strengthen resilience before failures can escalate. You have to have that relationship, or incident management is basically just a, well, we got to report it because of HSE
Yeah.
policies, that kind of stuff. No, you want to get real intelligence out of it,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah, I like I really like the example of the map because actually at the end is people. So people that wants to go places, they need a map, the business plan, whatever you call it, and the analogy I think is perfect because you mentioned culture before, which
Mm,
I think is related because at the end culture is formed or built by people. So
yeah.
what role does culture play in making incident management effective then? Because actually it's all
Oh,
about the people at the end.
so put aside all the technical capability,
Right.
right? Culture is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. A blame culture, which is not a pleasant working environment,
Yeah.
ensures, almost guarantees that incidents will be hidden.
Right.
A learning culture ensures incidents are shared, analyzed, and acted upon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leadership must model transparency.
Yeah.
Yeah. And treat incidents as opportunities for learning and
Yeah.
improvement, not punishment.
Right.
So the
Right.
example that you gave earlier was probably the leadership trying to embrace real problems as opportunities for
Right.
learning and retraining and stuff like that. It can go too far sometimes when people are breaching compliance,
Right.
or making it an unsafe work environment for others. That kind
Yeah.
of stuff. There's only so much of that you want to tolerate, but you
Yeah.
certainly want to have all your ducks in a row before you start dismissing people for incidents, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That shouldn't be the knee-jerk reaction, and you certainly don't want that idea built into your company culture.
Yeah. So I like this this example they give, like a culture of learning or a culture of blaming, because
Mhm.
and how leadership can leverage one or the other. But I leverage don't leverage the culture of blaming, but you never know. Sometimes they do. But how can leaders use the incident trend for a proactive improvement? Then so let's go into the positive side. So leverage to a culture of growth, if you may.
Well, it comes down to resource allocation, right? By tracking frequency, severity,
Right.
reoccurrences of certain things, right? Leaders can prioritize resources where they matter most. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get more incidents in one space, you're going to put resources on it to do further analysis, maybe
Right.
deeper risk management, et cetera. For example, repeated near misses in one process may justify a redesign
Right.
of that process or retraining
Yeah.
of the staff. So they would benefit from reporting near misses, right?
Right. Right.
It just improves the quality of their work environment.
Yeah.
Trend analysis turns reactive management into proactive prevention, and ultimately reducing risks, threats,
Yeah.
and threat exposure across the business is one of the goals of using a platform like
Right.
Trinity.
And in terms of transparency, so between the leadership, because this might be a very interesting conversation and cascaded down in terms of board of directors, executive teams, and then but the frontline workers when they come in. So how what I'm trying to say is where does transparency between leadership and frontline workers come in? Like
Well, you really want your employees to know that their reports
right,
matter, that it isn't just a, dot the I, cross the T, and move
yeah,
on kind of situation. When frontline workers see that leadership actually reviews incidents,
yeah,
takes action,
yeah,
and communicates back, then
all right,
engagement will rise. right?
Yeah.
There has to be that full circle. It has to be a back and forth.
Yeah.
That visibility, especially, of the strategy layer, we've talked about that before,
Yeah.
is making sure there's some transparency there. That visibility creates a stronger culture of safety, accountability, and trust. And
Right.
it strengthens the bridge between operations and governance.
Yeah.
You can't live without that bridge. And incident management to risk management, that is just one lane on the road
Yeah.
that bridges operations and governance.
Yeah.
Transparency is definitely important in that space. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I like you mentioned in other calls that nobody wakes up in the morning wanting to fail, so they want to succeed. So having this transparency also help them to say, okay, I'm not monitored or in terms of judged. This
Mm-hmm.
is a way of improvement. So having this transparency between governance to frontline helps to understand actually logging all these incidents and cases actually is not and the look back obviously
Mm-hmm.
is not to blame as we mentioned earlier. Is just to make sure that we are in the right direction as an organization and we can adapt and adjust as we need. So
Yeah, it's got to be a resolution first kind of culture, right?
right.
Tell us the problems, the near misses, the
Mm,
situation, the stuff that's going on. First focus is going to be resolution,
right.
right? Fix it. Then we can worry about blame.
Yeah.
But if your first reaction is whose fault is it? You know,
Yeah.
that can undermine the culture
Yeah.
of a company. Yeah.
Right. And so just almost wrapping this call now, looking ahead, how should incident management evolve in a kind of a, well, not in a kind, in an actual digital native enterprise?
Well, it should become seamless, right?
Right.
It should be embedded, and if done properly, it can be predictive,
Yeah.
right? Instead of being a compliance afterthought, incident reporting starts to become an automated part of day-to-day work. It gets analyzed in real time. It gets integrated with governance dashboards and
Right.
risk management matrices, that kind of stuff. The future is all about building an incident intelligence system that
Right.
connects operational events to strategic risk insight,
Yeah.
ensuring things like resilience and compliance and competitiveness.
Yeah.
And in the digital age, companies are running out of excuses for not being on the leading edge of that.
Yeah. Right. Any final thoughts on today?
Well, I would certainly say accessibility to incident management is extremely important. So making it a part of a single operations management environment is
Right.
critical. Um, and I just don't see an incident management silo versus a risk management silo versus
Right.
operational execution silo. That I think is bad practice. I think that it should be a priority to leadership to find a platform like Trinity
Right.
where features like incident management, and it's a very, very important one. It's why that's the first one we're dealing with. It is one of the main feedback loops on whether, risks, especially threats to the business
Right.
or to the environment or to, anything
Yeah.
that you wish to manage is effective,
Right.
right? Without that feedback loop, and it should be automated, it should be fully integrated,
Right.
right? Without that feedback loop, then your risk register is just a document sitting on a desk,
Yeah.
and incident management is just a afterthought.
Right. Excellent. So I can wait for part two on next Tuesday on our technical Tuesday sessions. And until then, thank you very much. I think that it's very clear that actually from incidents to intelligence is just a platform that integrates everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Wonderful. Excellent, Richard. Thank you very much. And we'll catch
Great.
up next Tuesday.
Thanks, Ren. Always a
Thank,
pleasure.
thank you. Bye bye.